Pumped to have you back in, my friend. I want to start because this week has been a really exciting one. I had Chipper Jones on the show, talked to him for a long time, and naturally, some stories about you came up. So this first one, I want to play for you. He talked about an occasion that occurred in spring training, and I want to hear what you have to say about this. So let's check it out.
I was always the first guy in the cage the first day of spring training against those guys.
Yeah.
So I know everything they got. And to be honest with you, Smoltz is my kind of pitcher. Like if I had to choose one of the three, because everything's hard. You know he's going to come at you with the hard, straight fastball. He's going to throw the slider, and if he throws the slider enough, he's going to hang me one every once in a while. And he hung me a few in spring training. And normally when you hit a home run off one of your teammates in spring training, you just get out of the cage. Nope. I ran the bases. I slapped high fives with the second baseman and the first. Yeah, everybody did the dap with my third base coach. Around
the. What do you remember about that?
It was batting practice, and I was throwing the ball right down the middle. Like the reason he liked hitting off me in batting practice to get ready for the season, and this was my motto every time I went.
Individual in the world
is I would throw the ball right down the middle. I wasn't trying to get my hitters out, and when he pimped it, knowing what was coming, I just sat there going, "Okay, all right." But my theory in spring training, it might be a little bit different than most. Guys are trying to get themselves ready, throw the best pitches they can. And my theory was, I'm just trying to exercise my arm and get ready. And I literally felt like I could get every hitter hot because I was throwing the ball strikes. I was trying to throw strikes. So yeah, Chipper, I remembered that vividly and laughed as he was, taking his victory lap around the bases in what was batting practice. So, he knew what was coming.
As you can imagine, he failed to mention that part. He failed to mention that it was, I knew it was coming, so that's why I did that. But, he didn't mention that. He also, I asked, as you've shared a couple of great stories with other players, but I needed some about you. So when I asked Chipper when I mention John Smoltz and a story that comes to mind, let me play for you the story that came to mind for Chipper about you.
He's not the toughest individual in the world. He got hit in the back, like right between the 2 and the 9 one time in Colorado. And he sat at home plate and did the tuna for a good like 3 or 4 minutes. Like didn't get up. And we're all sitting there like, bro, we get hit every day. I mean, we're not gonna sit there and do the tuna, do the tuna flop right there at home plate. So he caught a lot of guff for that one.
Oh gosh, remember that one?
I do. I got hit in the kidney and I couldn't breathe for about 30 seconds. And they didn't even see if I was okay. They started laughing immediately, and it was in Colorado, of course. The thin air there, so. I had hit 2 doubles, I think, that game and got drilled. Wasn't happy, and it did catch me in the perfect spot. I'm not like those everyday hitters who anticipate the ball coming towards you, and did not get out of the way very well. Turned my back right into it, and finished the game like I always did, or stayed in the game. But the funny thing about Chipper is he never got hit. And he made it known that he never gets hit. And as soon as he made it known, what do you think happened?
He gets hit.
He got hit. So he stayed pretty healthy in that regards because of the way and his style of hitting. Obviously, he's a great hitter, one of the best switch hitters ever. And he had ability to hit for power for both sides of the plate. And I think. Didn't get hit that often. So he didn't really get to know how to experience that scenario up until that point.
It's just funny. Like, I ask him a story that comes to mind, and that's one, and then the other happened to be a slow roller in between the first baseline and you. And he's like, and he goes running over, he trips, he falls, he does a barrel roll over to first base, and those are the two stories that Chipper shared.
Yeah, well, one he forgot to mention was the greatest play I've ever made in my life was against Tom Glavine against the Mets. He swung and hit it off the end of the bat. Chipper should have made it. His look on his face was like, you got to be kidding me. I go over barehanded and end up throwing it from almost the third base coaching box and get Glavine because he wasn't the most fleet of foot. But it should have made play of the year. But Chipper's face was priceless when you go like, what are you doing? I had this easy. I could have crow-hopped and made it. But it was that competitive juices that I had both on that play and the play that he's talking about. Julio Franco came over and I was waving to him that I've got it. And obviously he didn't hear me. So when I made the play, there was nothing else to do but try to roll to first. And of course I thought I was reaching the bag with my glove. I was nowhere close. I took so much grief for that play. And the side story behind that play is, unfortunately, the first, I think it was Cirillo or whoever was coming into first, sliding for the Padres. He slid in and he hurt and tore up his thumb, which was unfortunate. And I ended up either cracking a rib or pulling the rib muscle because I was sore for a long time, had to Novocaine it up to pitch my next start. So I didn't say much about it because I played it off like there was no big deal. But I had to pitch the next couple starts with a kind of a compromised rib section.
Wow. I didn't know that, but he chose to give you a bunch of grief for stories. So I brought up his foul ball last year in the playoffs, which he just completely botched in the stands. And so he said he's gotten so much grief for that. He also said if his kids weren't there, he would have just left his wife and run away because he wants no parts of catching a foul ball in the stands. Do you remember, I've heard a story of a young Chipper Jones, playing the infield, and he plowed into Greg Maddux, and it just earned him an earful from Maddox. Do you remember that at all? Because I've heard this story, but do not remember.
Oh man, I remember it like it was yesterday. Listen, the pitcher plays traffic cop on a pop-up, and it was on close to the first base side of the foul line, so there would be no reason for a third baseman to come flying in at 100 miles an hour. And Chipper could fly back in his day before he hurt his knee. And here's Maddox just sitting there between the first baseman and the catcher. And the next thing you know, he gets, as he calls it, frogged in the calf and just buckles him. And he goes down, and Chipper never saw him and just ran right into him trying to catch this pop-up out of eagerness. And it was an earful in the dugout. Here's a young Chipper and a veteran kind of, world-class pitcher, Maddox. And I mean, he got him in the calf good. And it was one of the funniest things I've seen because luckily it was funny because nobody really got hurt. But he come flying in, looking at that ball in the air and never looked and just ran right into and Greg, to his, he had no idea someone was going to be coming and hitting him like a football player. Chipper's knee hit Maddox in the calf or behind the knee, and oh man.
So what's that earful like in the dugout? Because is Maddox a guy that's not afraid to make his own play on the mound? You see a lot of pitchers now just get out of the way, but
yeah. So the problem was it was in foul territory again. No reason for the third baseman to be part of the play.
This is in foul territory on the first base side.
Yes. So you can imagine. Maddox is just sitting there going to tell, hey, first base or catcher, because you don't want them running into each other. So there was no reason for it. And I think the last time that Chipper was that eager to, pay attention to what was going on, but he wanted to catch he was just trying to be part of the play.
So, John, a big moment over the past week, Albert Pujols 700 home runs. I mean, I got emotional just watching it. It was so cool to see it happen. First off, what were your feelings and emotions seeing him get 700 in Los Angeles, where he's so beloved? Obviously would have been, just little more perfect in St. Louis, but what a cool night for the game of baseball, I think.
I don't even know if the improbability of this happening for the greatest right-handed slugger, based on last year and some of his injuries, the trend, I don't think anybody in the world thought he would hit 10 to 15 home runs, yet alone over 20 and get to 700. It is truly a representation of the full circle of Albert's career. His dedication to the game, work ethic, grinding out at bats. And I think it's one of the most incredible things, given the circumstances of what we know Albert has gone through. And what a perfect ending. I mean, I really believe he would have called it a career if it was 698 or 699. Wow. But I think the way that this season's going now for the Cardinals and the way that Albert Pujols is playing and kind of the life he's embarked on that team, I wouldn't be surprised if St. Louis upsets some teams and makes it farther than people think in the postseason, because, he's a big part of it and he could come up with a huge hit. I mean, the fact that he did it in LA, like you said, and the fact that he did it in one game with 2 home runs. Look, the hardest home run is the home run before a milestone, before a round number.
Yeah.
I mean, Judge is having that issue right now, and it's so much stress and pressure to do something that everyone expects you to do every time you come up. And they're talking about it all the time. That, to me, in itself, is incredible.
Yeah, it was quite the night and a special moment for sure. And in the game of baseball now, I mean, 700 just feels like an unobtainable number. Like it feels like we're not going to get there anymore. I mean, Miguel Cabrera's 200 away. Nelson Cruz is 200 plus away. It seems difficult to get there, but when you're thinking about the game of baseball where we are right now, is there anybody, any young player in the game or anybody playing that you think, man, maybe that person one day has a chance to get there?
I mean, the initial thought would always go to Acuna and Soto because they're the youngest and they've reached that 100 plus, pretty quickly. I'm going to throw one out that's not out of left field, but it all is going to be dependent upon the health and determination of this young man. And I think Bryce Harper, he's got 200 and some home runs. That seems like a country away, but he's 29. So if you think about playing 11 more years or finishing out the contract, and let's just say he averages, 30 home runs a year, he gets close. But just think about that. He would have to average 40 home runs a year to get to that number. So I don't know if anybody can, but if it would be, it'd be one of those three guys just because of age. You got to have a motor that ticks, that wants to be the best, that wants to go out there and grind every single day. And I think Bryce Harper has that. He's had some unfortunate injuries that have kind of derailed that. And hopefully he can stay healthy the rest of his career. But he plays in a great park. He's got that motor. He's a historian that loves the game, and I think wants to be and climb the ladder of the great ones.
That's one of those numbers that really puts it into perspective. He'd have to average 40 home runs a year for the rest of his career to get there. I saw a montage all put together of Albert's 700 home runs, and I think a lot of people forget. You look at his time in Los Angeles with the Angels, and you don't think of it as, well, this was Albert Pujols. It kind of seems like, that was the beginning of the end. He hit over 200 home runs with the Angels, and he was there for a while. I was just watching that video like, man, he might have been in his mid to late 30s with the Angels, but that's when he made that push to 700. Those have to be the tough years, that 35 to 40 that you got to keep averaging, tons of home runs.
Yeah, and I can't think of another guy that played in 2 distinct different eras, right? Like Albert was the prolific power average homer in the era that I played in, where pitching was different, where strikeouts weren't a badge of honor or weren't looked at like something that's terrible. And so now he's survived the high velocity era. Like, he's pitched and played long enough to face pitchers who threw in the mid 90s, now throwing the 100. And I think there's something to be said for that. You know, Hank Aaron, who's the greatest home run hitter of all time, in my opinion, he played in pretty much the same era and dominated, right? And I don't think we've ever seen, to my knowledge, a shift in philosophy of pitching that was pretty drastic and almost took to a place where everybody now tries to throw max effort. Yeah. So, you know, I think there's something to be said for what he was able to do, even in the latter part of his career. When you get older and the bat speed gets less and the eyesight gets less, he was able to still do it.
Yeah. Hey, John, one last one I got to share with you from Chipper. I asked him the other day that I said, I know Smoltz, Glavine, Maddox, they're all such great athletes, and you get them out on a golf course and they're going to be fantastic. But have you ever gotten them out into your territory? You ever brought them out into the woods and gone hunting with them? And he just cracked up and said, not a chance those guys would survive out in the woods. If they were on Survivor or something, they wouldn't make it 2 days.
There's no doubt he's right about that. That's not my element. And, you know, there's no, I can't think of anybody else who I was around that talked hunting more than him. And look, he just lives for that, you know, and I think that's something that is a hobby that I never picked up. I'm going to tell a story. The reason I'm not a hunter is I had an unfortunate scenario when I was about 12 years old. Mm-hmm. I told a buddy of mine, we lived in between two fields, my buddy's house, and there was a rabbit about 30 yards away. And I got a flat rock and I said, get that rabbit to move. I'm gonna hit it on the run just before it gets to the field. Never really thinking that would happen.
Oh God.
And I hit that rabbit about 5 feet before it got to the field. And I was so distraught. I was hoping that thing was going to be okay. And I said, it'll be all right. It'll be all right. Took one more kick and that was it.
Oh, no.
I never wanted to hunt since. My buddy said at that point, he goes, you're going to make it to the big leagues. I'm like, yeah, but I just killed a rabbit and I'm an animal lover. And I've never even wanted to think about hunting ever since then.
Yeah, I'm with you. I can't do it either. And I can't hit a rabbit from that far away, but yeah, I would never do that. But thanks for watching. If you love flipping bats, swinging 3-0, or just talking ball, join us. Call us at 213-537-9339 with your questions. We have a weekly guest, and we have a lot of fun, so hit that subscribe button.